And that is, again, our new segment starting as we are getting closer and closer to college football kickoff. It's almost there. It's almost there. Our new segment, top 5 for each position group. This week, it is the top 5 best secondaries for the 2017 college football season. And, before people go crazy, because, there's only 5 schools that I'm picking. Likely might not be your school. So in the comment section, but just so we can start off now, go ahead and tell me, who do you believe is the top 5, who has the best top 5 secondaries in college football this season? We are going to start off with number 5, and that is the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, don't get me wrong, they did suffer some key losses this offseason, losing cornerback Sojourn Shelton and Leo Musso, who both started all 14 games for the Badgers last season as seniors, and they combined for 9 interceptions and 13 passes defended. Definitely hurts. But this program has continued year in and year out to produce top defensive backs every single season, and it's always been fun to watch their defense. It's just become a nightmare for Big Ten offenses. Now, before 2016, the Badgers had ranked in the top 20 in yards, passing yards allowed per game. And that was from 2011 to 2015. Now, in 2016, they were just outside of that. They averaged 202.6 yards per game, which was 30th in the country last season. Now, they do have some guys that are returning that this is why I'm still keeping them on the list over some other schools like Michigan and Florida, who did suffer some major losses, and I just feel like there's too many question marks to label them in the top 5 right now. So you already know those 2 schools aren't on here, but you have Derek Tyndall. He broke up 10 passes last season, also had 3 interceptions. You have DeConte Dixon, Natrell Jamerson. They should be starters as seniors this upcoming season. And one of the most interesting things about this Badgers team is they have a Hawaii transfer, Nick Nelson, who sat out 2016 due to NCAA transfer rules. But as a sophomore for Hawaii, he had 15 passes defended against. 15. And again, last season he had to sit out, but he was still able to obviously learn the system, learn the program. Should be able to step in right away, I would assume so, with some definite talent there. So that's why I'm keeping Wisconsin at number 5, and I think that's respectable for them. And it should be fun to see how they continue to reload on that defense. And speaking of reloading, we'd head over to number 4, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, I understand. You just said Michigan and Florida. They lost a ton to the NFL draft. So did Ohio State. Ohio State lost 3 defensive backs in the first 24 picks of the 2016 NFL draft. But this isn't the first time, and they continue to reload. They are one of the very few that can reload at the defensive back position. So Damon Webb is the main guy. 57 tackles, 3 passes defended, and a pick 6 last season. You also have Denzel Ward, who led the team in passes defended with 9, despite not starting a single game. This guy did not start one game, still led the school in passes defended. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's reloading. And then you also have the intriguing player of Kendall Sheffield. Now, this guy's an incoming transfer and a former 5-star recruit who was at the University of Alabama. He transferred to Blinn College, played there for 1 year, is now with the Ohio State Buckeyes. He will likely take one of those starting positions, and it's going to be interesting how if he can fill up to that top 5, or excuse me, the 5-star ranking that he once had back in high school. So to leave Ohio State out is a little, that's crazy. That's crazy. They have shown season after season to be able to reload and produce guys to take them to the NFL. At number 3, now I'm not going to lie, this one was a little shocking when I was looking up, stats. I wanted to go off of stats, but also who was coming back and some of the intriguing players. And again, we're just talking about secondaries here. And obviously the secondary benefits from the defensive line, how quick they can get to the quarterback and rush that quarterback. But one of the most intriguing schools is definitely Virginia Tech. And that's who's number 3. 5 times last season, Virginia Tech held an opponent under a 40% completion percentage. Under 40%. Terrell Edmonds and Mook Reynolds, they will take over the secondary after combining for 6 interceptions and 9 passes defended. The guy to remember his name, ladies and gentlemen, Adonis Alexander. He will have a much bigger role at safety as a junior this upcoming season. Tallied 6 interceptions and 19 passes defended in his first 2 seasons. Greg Stroman finished the year with 3 interceptions and 10 passes defended as well. Brandon Faison, he also had a double-digit passes defended for the second straight year, starting all 14 games at cornerback in 2016. Now, given that ACC offenses have kind of died down after the NFL draft, Virginia Tech could be another stingy defense. Moving on to number 2, there are only 1% of schools that can reload rather than rebuild. We talked about Ohio State. The one who is the definition of reloading is Alabama, the Crimson Tide. They won't feel the loss of Marlon Humphrey, who was a first-round draft pick like other schools would have. Other schools would have definitely felt the effect of not having a first-round DB. For Alabama, well, that's become tradition now. They will have last year's 3 leaders in passes defended. Anthony Everett, who had 8. Minka Fitzpatrick with 7, as well as Ronnie Harrison, who also had 7. Fitzpatrick, though, 6 interceptions and is likely one, if not the top DB in getting ready for the NFL draft of next year. Alabama also signed 2 of the top 8 cornerbacks of last year's class, Jared Maiden and Shaheem Carter, as well as athlete Trevin Diggs, who worked out in the spring as their number 2 cornerback. Something to look for. Now, senior Hootie Jones, who's been in some off-the-field issues last season. He is a senior, and he did break up 4 passes last season in limited reps. He should have a bigger role for the Crimson Tide. It's hard to keep them off on number 2. And finally, number 1, if you didn't guess it already, you had to know this. The Florida State Seminoles. Now, if you don't think the Seminoles are going to have one of the best, the best secondary in college football this season, you might want to watch some more film and look who they got returning. And before you say, well, what about last year's stats? Last year, Florida State, thinking about the Clemson game where they gave up 500 yards of offense. That was without the top defensive back in the country in Derwin James. Now, before you also say, one player does not make a secondary. Well, you tell that to the Seattle Seahawks, who lost Earl Thomas, and see how that defense changed. Now, Derwin James, he is widely regarded as one of the best defenders in the country heading into the 2017 season. Now, with James back, and you also have Tarvarius McFadden, who is also rated as one of the top defensive backs in the country, the Seminoles will look to absolutely wreak havoc on ACC quarterbacks. You also have Trey Marshall and A.J. Westbrook, who combined it for 98 tackles and 8 passes defended. Now, hopefully, no injuries happen. And if so, Florida State should have the stingiest defense in the country and also the best. Did I leave your team out? Do you believe Michigan or Florida should have been in the top 5 over Wisconsin, Ohio State, or some of the other schools? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also tweet me at Short Sports Show. Become a fan on Facebook, The Short Sports Show.